So one of the easiest things to do for social studies is geography. You could study a different place, state, or country every week and then call it done. So in this video, I'm going to share a bunch of ideas of ways to cover that. If you just want your kids to learn a map, one of the easiest things to do is to get a laminated map like this. I would put this in front of my kids and then put down like a Cheerio or a mini M&M, and if they could name the place, then they got to eat it, and so they were motivated that way. Then a few years ago, I decided that we should learn about every state. So usually in school, teachers will assign you a project to do where you like build a float out of a shoebox that represents your state. I've only got 3 kids, so we're not going to be, making all that time making shoeboxes. So instead, I sent off to every state asking for their tourism information. Every state has a website, and you just fill in your mailing information and what kinds of stuff you're interested in, and they'll send it to you. So we got all these magazines and a state map. So we just got all this mail, and it was really neat. And then we eventually collaged pictures into a book. And then that year, we learned like the 5 regions of the United States and the main geographical features, and cooked some regional food. And nothing elaborate. You could also sometimes find a postcard exchange with other homeschoolers online. So you send them postcards and they send you postcards. But most people like to go the traditional route of printing off worksheets to have their kids complete. And some of these are better than others. So I like the Enchanted Learning ones because it will give you questions like, what state borders this one to the east? So then it's map skills, not just like coloring in what the flag looks like. And my kids aren't really interested in worksheets. It's just different when you're not in the classroom, because in the classroom, kids are like, ooh, coloring, that's different than the normal thing. But try it out if you want. So instead, I like to use a lot of other things. I found a lot of good YouTubes. So we liked National Geographic, Are We There Yet? And this was a brother and a sister, and they would travel to different landmarks like the Eiffel Tower. And we just really enjoyed those. It was kind of like a miniature Rick Steves. Then when they got older, we liked the Geography Now. This guy, he's super funny and highly informative. And he does most of the countries of the world. Then there's also Stratfor. And you can type in like Italy's Geographic Challenge. So whatever country, Geographic Challenge, and it gives you a short like 2-minute video of the main geography of the country and like the challenges that they have because of it. So that one's a nice one. And then sometimes I like to look up like surprising facts or short history videos, but those ones definitely preview first because they might be made for adults instead of kids. So you can do some different things with maps. So one place I like to go to is yourchildlearns.com. I'll put the link down below, and they have printable free maps, so you can print them on just a single page or on multiple pages. So they have all the way up to an 8x8, which that's pretty big. And so you do have to trim it a little bit and then glue or tape them together. So you want to make sure that you kind of keep them in order so that way you can get your map to be finished. I usually like to put those either on the wall or on our school table, our dining room table, and then I put a clear plastic tablecloth over that, and then we can do some other things with that. So when we've talked about like places that conquering other places, I've used Play-Doh to show like how far Napoleon had conquered. Or I've got these, I printed miniature flags. I'd probably make them bigger, but I was short on printing. So I made these miniature flags and glued them to a toothpick. And you could either use like a binder clip or a piece of Play-Doh, or they actually make a special thing just for this. But then you can have them, say, where's Italy? And they can put that on the map, and that's a nice fun thing, kind of like those Carmen Sandiego show back in the old days. I've also made passports before. This one was pretty fancy that I made. I painted all that on there. But you can find printable ones. So we filled in their information and put a picture of them. And then I put in a map and we color in the places that we've studied. And then we have a spot for the flags. So I just used labels and printed those off because my kids, like I said, won't color in flags. You could also sometimes find printable postcards or have them design a travel brochure or do crafts of the places. So I'm going to show you a few. I'm going to link my Pinterest because I already have a bunch of these saved, and then you don't have to go looking for them. So this was one that we did of Poland, of their traditional craft. We did something that was kind of like kente cloth when we studied Africa. We painted this when we studied Japan. It's the picture of the wave. We made this was really nice, a scroll when we did China. But I've got a bunch of other ones on my Pinterest there. Then you can do other things with maps. So here is a textured map that I made. This was Elmer's glue and shaving cream, and it makes kind of like a foam. And you can probably put different colors in that, but we used ours to do snow when we were talking about the Ice Age. You could also use like sand for talking about the desert, or I've heard of doing a glitter map. That's a lot of glitter, so I haven't done that one yet. But I have made an animal map before, or you could collage pictures on a map, like cutouts from a magazine. Sometimes you can find a short map book like this. I found this one at Aldi's, and it's actually a sticker book, so they just put in the stickers and you read the information, and that one's nice and easy. Some other things that you can do with maps is you can make a salt dough map. So I've got my printable of my map here, and then I put a piece of parchment paper down, and then you just give them the dough and they fill it in. So the nice thing about a salt dough map, so to make salt dough, you take 1 cup of salt, 2 cups of flour, and 1 cup of warm water, and like mix that together, and you have a dough that's kind of like Play-Doh, and they can build up their map. So the nice thing about the salt dough is that you can build mountains and valleys and stuff, and it will keep its shape. But we found that the drawback is, what do you do with this when you're done? Like one time we made a giant salt dough map of Australia, and then we didn't know what to do with it, so we just kept it on top of our cabinet for a couple of years and then threw it away. But you can paint it when you're done, and so that's a nice thing. But we found instead what we like to use is cookie dough, because then you don't have to keep the map, you can just eat it. So there, I've already got China done, and I did this with cookie dough. So we just used a regular sugar dough, and it will kind of flatten out a little bit, and you just can push it back into place before it gets too hard. And then I usually cover this with different colors of frosting. So sometimes we use like green for grass, and then we might put in some other things. So like I've got cookie crumbs, or I've got yellow sugar that I've dyed, and I'd use those for desert. Then for mountains, I usually like to use like chocolate chips or white chocolate chips or the big chocolate chips, because like I said, the cookie dough will kind of spread out, but I have tried to make those into mountains before. Sometimes I've got sprinkles that are shaped like Christmas trees, and we use that for forests. And I've got sprinkles that are snowflakes, and we use that for when we're talking about some sort of cold region, like in the Arctic. So then, then they have an edible map, and I promise you that they will definitely have learned what that country is shaped like. So there's a whole bunch of ideas for you of some different things that you could do with geography, and you don't have to do them all by any means. Do not. Just pick a few, and there you have it. It's not a big deal.